waves, artist waves. We making waves, 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 artist waves.
Hello everybody, thank you K-Bong. Welcome to Artist Waves Live. My name is Jeff Gorra, and today Artist Waves Live has the privilege of having on Mr. Taylor Steele. So Taylor is one of my favorite creatives on the planet, let's put it that way. Taylor is legendary filmmaker in the world of surfing, and you may know him from Momentum Generation, the great documentary from HBO. You may know him from his influence in punk rock music in the world of surfing. And now we are going to know him for what I have here is a glass of his tequila, his new tequila brand, which actually came out end of 2019. It's called Solento Tequila. Shout out Solento right over my shoulder right there. It's delicious, by the way. I have a glass on ice with me right here. So we're going to be talking a little bit about his Solento Tequila brand, a little bit about his legendary surf filmmaking career, and a little bit about the influence of punk rock in the world of surfing and in his world. So Taylor is coming to us from, I want to say he's from San Diego. He may be in San Diego, or I know he splits his time between San Diego and New York and is coming from a trip in Hawaii. But I think we'll be coast to coast here. So Taylor should be here any minute. Maybe we'll have time for questions at the end. Maybe not. I'm not sure. But we're going to be talking a little bit about tequila to start off. And again, Solento Tequila. I have here which is called the Blanco. There are 3 different flavors, I guess you'd call them, 3 different variations. The Blanco suggested on ice with a little slice of lemon in there. It's delicious, man. It really is. It's not even 4 o'clock on a Wednesday on the East Coast, and I am enjoying a glass of tequila. We don't always have drinks on this show, though maybe we should. That's kind of a fun idea. Jay Glazer does that, or used to do that, and it's quite enjoyable. Hi everybody. Hi everyone joining. Hello, hello, hello. Hello there, Mark. Hello there, Summer Nights. Hello, everybody. Has anybody had a little bit of Solento Tequila yet? If you have, give it a thumbs up. Who's seen some of Taylor's incredible films? They go back, 25, 26 years now, I think, in terms of when Momentum first came out, Momentum 2, The Drifter, and list goes on and on and on. But here we go. I think Taylor is here. I see Solento Tequila in the house, so let's start chatting. Hey, what's up, Taylor?
How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm great.
I am really excited to talk to you. Welcome to Artist Waves Live. I appreciate you taking the time today to chat with me. Are you in San Diego?
I'm in San Diego. It's a perfect day for it. It's got some rain and it's waves aren't good.
Perfect. Just how we drew it up. Although San Diego is without question my favorite city on the planet. So regardless, I'm still jealous.
Cool. Where are you at?
I'm in Boston, right on the South Shore of Boston. Nice. We have some decent waves in the South Shore. It's taught me to surf pretty well.
Oh, good.
I was saying, I have with me here, so it may be a little early on your side, but it's 4 o'clock for me. I have a glass of my Solento Tequila on ice, some
nice.
Blanco. It's 5 o'clock in the middle of the ocean, in the Atlantic somewhere, so that's good enough for me. So cheers.
Perfect. Yeah, cheers. I don't have one with me right this second, but I'll try to sneak one off once some questions come or something.
Right on. I got to tell you, it's delicious, man. I really am enjoying it. I'm not just saying that because we're talking. I am thoroughly getting the vibe of what you have here.
Yeah, thank you. It's been a lot of research and work to get there. You know, like I fell in love with the whole tequila world probably like 6 years ago, and I just dove deep into it all and really understand how it's all done, and found these amazing people down in Mexico to do it with. And so for me, it's like the taste is number one. And so I'm glad you like it, because that was my hardest journey. I feel like marketing's more easy and storytelling's the easy part, but getting that taste right was the main thing.
Well, it certainly comes through. And you know what's been a cool experience for me is, again, I'm in the Boston area. I had learned about Solento and the brand and basically the mission behind what you were making here before I actually got to try it.
Yeah.
So it kind of like put my mind in this place of here's how you're going to get the most out of it.
Yeah. Cool.
And, you know, I love the more of a mindset mission or tagline that you have with it, and about connecting and slowing down and being in the moment, slow sun.
Yeah.
You know what's cool too is I know it's been out for a little while, but it really, you know, this past year has been all about like, you know, one step at a time, take in the moment, slow down, appreciate what you have, take care of yourself. And I don't know, I think what I'm trying to say is it really has paired well to that vibe of be in the moment, you know, chill for a minute, take care of yourself.
Yeah. You know, I had mixed feelings about, you know, this last year on whether it's good timing or not, because like I always imagine it as a way to remind us to take a break from our crazy world where we're just moving all over the place and driving and to work and back and like, you know, going to meetings here and there and just sort of just the tempo of being out in the world. But, you know, like now that we're sort of forced to slow down, it still works because, you know, we're at home and we need a way to transition from work at home to personal time at home. And so for me, I sort of envision it living in that world. And also, I think this last year, we've all sort of been able to reflect on what's important to us. And really, at the end of the day, it's like quality time with friends, quality time with ourselves, and really, you know, elevating that experience and not being there half-heartedly and on our phone and not really being engaged, but be properly there for ourselves and loved ones.
Yeah, well said. Right, totally, totally. What my world has been like too. And you know, it's funny. I've had a lot of moments of, you know, okay, chill for a minute, ground yourself, relax, take a breath, learn new things. And one of the things I've learned when it turned in terms of, you know, like something like Solento is, it was an ignorant mindset, I guess, but I used to associate tequila with like, I take a shot of tequila with my friends or something, or it would be in margaritas, you know, it'd be something, and you didn't necessarily, I didn't necessarily think about, well, what kind, or what is it that I'm putting in, or am I getting the most out of this experience? Yeah. And when I have had the opportunity to have something like Solento and calm down and stuff like that, it's really expanded my learning about not only what the drink is but more so like what it can do, and what it can mean to you and the moments that it can create. Was that important for you?
Yeah, it's funny because I have that similar experience, but I discovered sipping tequila probably 6 years ago and really fell in love with it. But before that, it was just give me a shot and go to the bar and give me a shot. And my dad taught me a trick for doing shots where you could sort of look like a cowboy and you do a shot and you blow the fumes out of your mouth with a lemon.
Yeah.
And that's just bad tequila if you're having to do that. You shouldn't have to like blow those fumes out and get that alcohol taste out of your mouth. It should just be a nice, sipping, enjoyable thing. But I was in that same boat and I fell in love with the whole sipping vibe of it, and something that, you know, elevated and away from that sort of shot and big party spring break vibe, but more of like, you know, something you would enjoy with, you know, maybe a little bit more grown up, I guess.
Yeah, totally, completely. And anything you can do to, you know, relax and calm down and have an enjoyable moment, the little things has gone a long way right now. I'm wondering too, like I've learned, as I said, I've learned a lot about, you know, how Solento came to be and what you've done here and what went into it. There's a real art to making tequila, at least to me, to making Solento. And I'm curious, from the start to finish for you, when it became like, all right, we're doing this and this is what we're doing, till the time you had this bottle in your hands, how long was that? It sounds like it was quite the artistic process.
I would say it was a good 4 years of different levels of creating, and research and deep dives and raising money and all those sort of things. weirdly, I put it in the same category as, trying to get a film off the ground and diving into that research and for me, like making films, there's so many films out there in the world. It's like, why make another film? How are you going to be different? How are you going to um, have an impact and stand out in that space? And I created the tequila in the same sort of thought process, and really sort of thought about it in that way of how could it be a positive, and how could it fit into the world that's currently going. So, but I found it very similar in my whole journey. Like it feels very much a creative endeavor for me, and it's doesn't feel that different than making films, weirdly.
Well, it's funny you say that. I'm wondering too, speaking of making films and the process behind it, is there anything that you've learned through this process of making tequila and the Solento brand that maybe was unexpected that you now apply to either surfing or making surf films? Is there something that you've taken with you?
Yeah, I would say it's sort of the other way around right now, because it's in that early stages. But like when COVID sort of hit full speed in March, we had to completely like pivot our game plan. And I just felt like sort of every film that I made, you once you get on the ground, whether you're in Iceland or like India, it's not how you projected it and planned it. There's these huge obstacles that come. And I just felt like with that sort of mindset of like, there's a way it's going to come out cool. Maybe not how we did the blueprint, but we'll figure out a new blueprint on the fly. That sort of mindset gave me a little bit of ease. And I felt like, okay, there's a solution to this. I just got to figure it out.
Gotcha. And I'm curious, how many different variations did you have until you arrived at, the Blanco or any of the other two, the finished product?
Yeah, there was, let's see, I would say there was probably 30 iterations. And then once I got down to the final four, it was blind taste test with 40 people, equal male, female, and just seeing what sort of rise from the top. And just so that I'm always like in the marketing in the back of my head, like I didn't want these people that I was tasting to think like the quality was low. So I put some name brands in the blind tasting too, to sort of, when they picked Solento, that they knew was also as good as any other tequila they've had. So yeah, like, but the flavor that we ended up with, I don't trust my own judgments on it. That it should all be my taste. It should be sort of like what's everybody else thinks too. And so this one won like 95% of the time, and it was quite clear. And I wasn't even stuck on the organic side. It was like whatever tastes best. And so the organic won out. And I think part of that, the way that it's grown and the harvest and the way they do it, you could taste that too. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. You can certainly tell that there's a lot of love,
Yeah.
a lot of thought put into it. So I appreciate you giving me the background and the inside scoop on how this came to be and the art behind it. And obviously, it's the result is pretty delicious. I'm gonna keep sipping if you don't mind.
Please do. Yeah.
Changing gears really quick, I wanted to ask you too. I've been dying to ask you about this because I consider myself someone who is inspired by just the world of creativity, and someone like you has, even from afar, has inspired me deeply in my endeavors throughout my life, throughout my journey. And I find it interesting to hear people's stories on how they arrived at their passion, their thing that they're doing. Growing up in Southern California, did you have a passion for surfing first, or was it more of the creative filmmaking? Which one came first?
Yeah. So I would say that surfing was was the lead horse, but it wasn't too far. I was making little claymation videos and little skit acting ones with me and my friends, and then shooting surfing as well. So like it was all, but my dad and mom both surf, and they bought a video camera so that they would have video footage of them surfing. I quickly stole that camera, and they never got self surfing. I only started shooting my friends, and Yeah, I owe him some video sessions still. Um, but yeah, like it was surfing first, and my dream was to be a pro surfer. I was like super into that world, and that was what I wanted to do. I wasn't a good enough surfer, but I was friends with Rob Machado, who was, and he introduced me to Kelly Slater. And this is like I knew Rob when we were like 12, 13, and Kelly when he was like 15. And they just sort of, as their career went, so did mine. And I just sort of rode their coattails and learned how to be a real filmmaker via just making films, and over a long time. Like I would say it took me 10 years to actually really understand what I was doing.
Yeah, it's documented well in a couple of different places, and I love how your process was, really putting in your time and figuring it out, staying in your van and whatever it was. And Momentum Generation is one of the most riveting documentary films I've ever seen. I've watched it numerous times, and I know for you it must have been really interesting to be on the other side of the camera and to be part of that film.
Yeah.
But one of my favorite parts of that is 35 minutes in, when you start talking about the influence of punk rock and how your films at that time, Momentum, and the injection of punk rock, the pairing of punk rock with what you were filming, just how powerful that was. Even having the Pennywise guys in there and Unwritten Law and Blink 182, you don't necessarily think about not knowing that this so heavily impacted their bands and their careers too. Looking back on that, how important was it for you to make sure that music was a part of what you were filming?
Yeah, I back then, uh, I approach music differently now when I do films, but music's always an element of emotion, and it's used for a way of expressing that emotion to the visuals. But back then, it was those were such performance pieces that it was all about highlighting how amazing of surfers they were, and the level of performance that they're doing. And so I wanted the energy of the music to fit that. And yeah, we would play a bunch of different songs to find the right fit to get that right mix. Punk rock's what I was listening to at the time. I was 18, and just that's what my music choices were, and it was music that I could get clear. I was clearing all the music and not just pirating it and using it. But I would edit each wave to the drum cymbal, and so there's a certain tempo with the drum cymbals where the top turn of the spray flying off that top turn, I'd want that to the drum cymbal, and it would add some energy to that turn. And so it was all about highlighting. It started with the surfing and highlighting that surfing performance. But since I was cutting so fast with like an MTV style edit, that it was needed to have a tempo to the music, because I would edit on the song beats, and I would also edit to the drum cymbals. So there's a certain formula that I was like inspired by to make the surfing look better.
That's cool. So you were a heavy punk rock fan, and
Yeah.
you were basically pairing your favorite music with surfing, as opposed to looking at the films and saying, I think the footage or the waves that we've caught best matches with this genre.
Yeah, I would be playing that music while I was filming in my headphones in my Walkman back then, and playing it around the guys, and sort of like trying to get their influence on what songs they liked. But yeah, that was just music I was listening to and super into. And a lot of the surfers weren't into it until later. That was just more stuff I was into growing up in San Diego. It was sort of the hub of skateboarding, punk rock music, and that sort of energy. And so a lot of my influences were based off that. There's some skate films that I really liked, and Plan B, and a bunch of different skate films that I would sort of try to bring into my style. And then punk rock music was just just starting, and was a sort of a cool thing back then. But yeah, it was off of my interest.
That's awesome. I love hearing that. It must be pretty special for you. I mean, I'm sure you've heard it before, but when you hear Pennywise or, some of these bands that you loved talk about how your films, changed the trajectory of their career, that must be a pretty special feeling too. Kind of unexpected, maybe.
Yeah, Pennywise is a unique story in the sense that their first album was released for a while before Momentum came out, and so they were able to see the effects of it, and which caused them to really embrace the world that they're actually the singer and guitarist Fletcher and Jim both surf. So it was something that they weren't foreign to, and they liked the surfing culture. So they embraced it, and it helped that their sales plateaued and they got a bump. So they were like, okay, this is a direct effect of this movie. I wouldn't say that's true for all the punk rock bands. Like Offspring, they released after the fact of all this sort of energy going forward, so there was no real like loyalty or association with the films. It was, to them, it was just uh, you know just part of their own sort of world. So but Pennywise in particular, once they sort of embraced it, they made an effort to connect with us and become friends with us. And so they would come down and stay at my house in San Diego, sleep on the couches, play pool for the dishes. And this is when I'm living at home with my parents. So it's funny to have like punk rock bands staying there, the top surfers staying there, and we're all just sort of like hanging at the house. There's probably like 10 of us there. And so my parents were very supportive in that way and allowing everybody to sort of meander around. Yeah.
Awesome. I'm sure it was a memorable time that you look back on and smile.
Yeah.
I'm wondering too, I've always wondered this about the technical component of making surf films. Um, it sounds probably silly, but I know you normally at first you'd shoot from the beach. But nowadays, or even as you got further along, how does it work technically? Like, are you in a helicopter? Are you in a boat? Like, how do you actually, I'm sure it varies, but
Yeah.
I've always been fascinated on like, how did they get that?
So the early stuff was basically just me staying on the beach.
Okay.
The long lens. And then as you get more budget and the things get bigger, you add more different angles and more filmers. There's always someone on the beach, but as it grew, it'd be like two people on the beach. And then it would go to two people on the beach and a guy in the water. And then add a guy in a helicopter to that as well, guy in a boat, and then, drones. It's just sort of, you keep piling as the technology gets better. So
Cool. Yeah, I've always been interested in that for some reason as to how you get right there, especially nowadays. You can GoPro or you could be on a jet ski or something.
Yeah.
So thanks. What's cool too is like in the art of making surf films and really and art of making tequila too. I think that from the outside looking in, patience has to be such a key component because you don't know what the ocean's going to give you. You don't know if, your guys, Kelly Slater or Rob Machado are going to nail it, although they probably will.
Yeah.
Same with tequila. I mean, you don't know what the result of the taste test is going to be or, what the barrel's going to, what it's going to taste like. How crucial has the element of patience been for you in applying it to these certain projects? Because that's probably the thing that I would struggle with the most.
Yeah, I think when I think of patience, like I can't avoid thinking of what the ocean does for that as a surfer. You go out in the water and you're just waiting for a wave and you don't know if it's going to come in 5 minutes or 30 minutes. And you just have to be patient. And it's almost like a meditative state that you're just sitting there waiting and you're not listening to music or you're not doing anything else. You're just sort of watching the horizon for a wave to come. And for the most part, you'll be in a crowded lineup and nobody's talking to each other. They're all focused on it. So it's almost like a meditation class. And then when the wave comes, you have to go. And you take off and you start, you're reacting to what the wave gives. So I feel like that meditation, I was taught that from the ocean. I needed it when I was filming on the beach. Sitting on the beach, you would sit sometimes for I've had sessions where I filmed probably 12 hours straight without a break and just focus on not missing a wave. And that's exhausting, but also you just have to get in the right mind space. I think all those things are in making tequilas. Like we grow our agave extra long, 7 years. Um, I think, you know, there's two morals there. One, good things take time, but also it's just, if it's something you care about, you don't mind putting in that time. Like you don't mind sitting on the beach for 12 hours when you're working on something you're passionate about. And it goes the same with tequila.
It's very true. That's totally, what has been applicable to my world here, and even with Artist Waves. We get a lot of people who are, creators, and they aim to inspire. And one of the things I think, whether you're in filming or making tequila or writing or playing in a band or whatever it is, I think that at some point you get faced with somebody, someone, or a group of people who usually are pretty close to you, that are like, what are you doing? Or why are you doing that? Or aren't you, that's a hobby. Or aren't you done with that yet? And in the back of your mind, it kind of makes you pretty burnt up inside, but you're also like, no, you don't understand. How has that been for you? And what would you say to those, in the Artist Waves community that are being faced with that, as opposed to just keep going and keep doing your thing, keep making your tequila, keep playing, keep writing your articles, keep playing in your band? What has been the key motivators for you?
Well, first off, like when you give up on your dreams, what do you have? Like you have much. So I always think like I think you need to find your own passion, which is hard. And then you just need to give it everything you can on that. I think there's always going to be people that work or live in a world of fear of the what if you fail. That's a tough industry to go into. I think like I've just tried to live in the world of positivity and optimism, and just going, there's a way. It might be hard work, but I'll get there, and it might take longer than I expect, but one day I'll get to where I want. For example, in high school, I was the third best surf filmmaker.
Oh, wow.
But I cared so much more than them, and I just wanted it so much more than those others. And so, that rode me through, and I learned how to do it by caring so much. So, yeah.
That's it right there. Passion burns, and you can't let it go. In high school, I didn't talk to anybody, and now I talk publicly and write about it, and it's weird. So,
same boat. Yeah.
Yeah. So cool. So, coming full circle a little bit, I think of a line, from, I think it was Kelly Slater, who said that your work, your films, all of your work was the glue that held everybody together, and that created this bond. And when I think of even like The Drifter, I had the opportunity to interview Rob Machado 2 years ago. I think it was shortly after Momentum Generation came out. And the first question, I think like 10 words out of his mouth, and then he mentioned you, and The Drifter, and seeing what that did for him, and then how that ultimately snowballed, and people like Shane Dorian were able to do things like that. And even with this, the mission behind tequila, you could have just made tequila on your own, but to put a purpose behind it is pretty special. Has that been important for you, to always have some sort of ripple effect and inspiring others that are going to be a part of your project, or no matter what it is?
Yeah, I think like early on in making the films, I was very shy, and especially during high school. But when I started making the films, I felt like part of that community. And then, the surfers' careers, and like being a part of their sort of journey to success, and helping in a small way. And then, like, as that grew, they would come to me and ask, like, how's that board look? Or what should I work on? And it was a lot more collaborative, almost like in a coaching way, on a basic level. But for me, like, what I fell in love with was that whole team environment. Like, it's us against the world. It's our group, and we're going to do it together and find a way. And I love that sort of energy. And so for me, like, when I'm making films, you get it. When you're, like, so that's what I sort of want to keep growing is I see that connection is like what makes me truly happy. And I feel like, yeah, not to get too long winded, but traveling around the world, there you see different sort of living situations. Some villages, some really rich, and the people that are most happy are the ones that have a good group of friends and community around them. And it has nothing to do with financial status, and it's more of that sort of connection to other people. And so for me, that's what I like to inspire and I like to be around, and that's what I try to create now.
That's pretty special. It's really a great way to attack things and to pursue your purpose with a passion. So coming full circle again, I guess, I'll drink to that. I'll cheers to that. Thinking about Solento and how far you've come and obviously how delicious it is. Have you personally had a moment, or can you take me inside a moment where you have slowed down? You've had the glass in your hand, whatever your favorite flavor is.
Yeah.
And maybe you're with, the Momentum Generation guys, maybe where you're with your family, maybe you're by yourself on a beach, and you've had a moment where it's all kind of come together for you with the drink in hand. And if so, what was it like?
There's no like celebrational moment like that I could think of, but just last week I was with Kelly and we were in Hawaii, and I like the big ice cubes in it. I just like the visual of it and the sound. And so just with that ice cube in there and that clinking noise already transforms me away from like my work side. And it's almost like a tea in Asia, where the making of the tea and the pouring of the tea is part of the ritual of being present. And so for me, that ice cube is the start of it, and then I pour the tequila straight on it, and that's sort of it for me. And then just sitting down and just talking as the sun was setting, and just talking about. I think we were really talking about like, some of the things we even touched on, but just like how do you reset your goals when you've already achieved them, and just sort of that sort of conversation, and really sort of like understanding. And celebrating where we've been, so it was like more of a that sort of conversation. But that was exactly why and where I imagined having Solento.
That's cool. That must have been pretty special. And I'm with you on the big ice cubes. I have them here.
Yeah.
But to be a fly on the wall in that conversation, or an ice cube in the glass on that conversation, would have been pretty cool. What about going forward? And I'll let you go. Last thing I'm curious about, Solento, when we kind of get back to somewhat normal, whatever the definition of normal is going to be going forward, do you foresee the worlds coming together in terms of your passion in the tequila? Might there be Solento at surf competitions, at music festivals? I don't know.
Yeah, I do see it coming together. Maybe not in that capacity, maybe in that capacity. I don't know on that side, but my worlds are like making films and tequila, and I see those already starting to cross over pretty fast. And I've started to do like 1 minute little things that are vibe thing for Solento, but I see longer forms coming up. So yeah,
well, we're gonna look out for that for sure with much excitement. And
yeah.
Taylor, this has been a blast, man. I really couldn't wait to talk to you. It exceeded my already high expectations, and I got to sip some delicious tequila along the way.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, man. I really thank you for your endless inspiration and your mission and your passion with a purpose. It goes a long way.
Oh, thank you. Thanks. I'm glad you enjoyed the tequila too. Thank you.
It's great. I mean, I don't know if I'll ever be able to not have tequila like this again.
That's
it's really the only way to do it, especially when the summer comes along. And I'm by the beach myself, so there's a lot of ways me and Solento are going to be hanging out in the near future. And if you ever need a writer, by the way, for any Solento surf film, I know a guy. I know a guy who's willing to jump right in.
Definitely keep that in mind.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, Taylor, thanks again. This has been a blast. I really appreciate you taking the time today, and congrats on everything. And hopefully our paths cross again soon someday.
Yeah, sounds good. Looking forward to it. All right.
Right on.
See
Take
ya.
care. All right. Taylor Steele. That conversation went too quick because I enjoyed it too much, and I'm enjoying this not too much, more than too much, which is a very good thing. Solento Tequila. Check out this bottle. It's a really awesome bottle. It's got some weight to it, weight in the cap, and man, this is delicious. There are 3 flavors. This is the Blanco, and I am going to be, as I said, spending a lot of time sipping this in the winter, in the summer, whatever. So cheers. Thank you all very much. Thanks for tuning in to Artist Waves Live. I'm Jeff Gorra. That was Taylor Steele, legendary filmmaker, surf filmmaker, highly influential in the world of punk rock and music, injecting into surfing. And we will see you next time, which is, by the way, doubleheader this week. AW Live doubleheader this week, Friday morning. Pencil it in, 10:30 in the morning with Willie Geist from NBC. We'll talk about how music inspires Willie Geist's life and the art of the interview a little bit. So until then, cheers. I will see you then. Thank you for tuning in. Thanks to Taylor Steele. Cheers to Solento.